It's 7 o'clock and I'm gonna get this meeting started. We are going to have our public meeting first and address our water treatment bond vote. We have representatives here from Aldrich and Elliott and our man from the treatment plant. So if there's any questions, but as we get started, I'd like to have you stand and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So we are going to have a vote next week? Yes. November 7th, for a bond vote for improvements to our water treatment plant. And as I don't know as much about it as the people that we've got here, I'm going to turn it over to you first, Bill, or you want Aldrich to know it?
No, we can turn it right over to Annie, but before we should share our screen and then pull up the PowerPoint, just in case somebody logs on and for the benefit of the camera. Is it share?
Did you get a slideshow?
Slideshow.
You just start, it's all in the left.
From beginning. You're good to go, and I'll turn it over to Jeff and Jason.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Lewis. I'm with Aldrich and Elliott. I've been the project engineer around design. I'm here today with my colleague Jason Booth, who is going to be in charge of construction if we get that far. As mentioned, we're holding an informational meeting tonight to discuss the wastewater treatment facility upgrade project we've been working on with you guys now for some time. This is a good meeting to inform the public of what we've been doing and what the proposed project is. Basically, the why are we doing this and what does the project look like of the project. If you go to the next phase, the project can be broken down quite simply. There are two reasons why we're proposing a wastewater treatment facility project at this time. You have equipment that's reached the end of its lifespan and is old and needs to be replaced or rehabilitated, or that's reason number one. And reason number two is that a new phosphorus limit came down in 2019 that we are proposing an improved treatment process to help meet that new limit. And so that's basically what's shown on the slide. On the right-hand slide is a list of different deficiencies that were documented by both our firm and a previous asset management study that was conducted. Starting in 2019, actually, a 20-year evaluation of the wastewater treatment facility was prepared by us, which looked at every treatment element and identified items which have reached the end of their expected lifespan and require rehabilitation. And that's the handy list that you see on your right. We'll walk through what those are in the upcoming slides. And then in the lower left-hand corner of this, we kind of show a fancy diagram of what is phosphorus and why are we taking it out. And in the really long and skinny of it is that phosphorus is the limiting nutrient in Lake Champlain, that if there's too much of it, causes these algal blooms that we've all heard about, causes the beaches to get shut down. So the state has implemented a program called the Total Maximum Daily Limit, which has implemented new limits of the phosphorus that's allowed to come out of different wastewater treatment facilities. Since your waterway that your wastewater treatment facility discharges into is more impaired, you guys have a very low limit. And so the treatment process that you guys currently have is not ideally suited for that limit. So we have done some work and have looked at a couple of different things as far as what the right solution for that is, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as far as what we've come up with and what's in the proposed project in the future. So the Village of Swanton has a wastewater treatment facility that was originally constructed in 1972 as a 2-cell facultative lagoon facility. And it's basically a man-made wetland that the water goes into, spends about 30 days in each lagoon, comes back out, and over that period of time, the process breaks it down quite naturally, and you remove constituents of concern, and then you discharge the flow back to the lake. In 1989, they upgraded the original facultative lagoon process by adding on a secondary clarifier process. It was intended actually at the time to also remove phosphorus, and what they did is now you go through those 2 lagoons and then you go into these big tanks that allow the solids to settle down to the bottom. And then we started using a UV system to disinfect and have that kind of protection before it goes into the waterway. So that was a pretty major upgrade in 1989. A lot of the components that we're replacing as part of this project were put in place in 1989 and have been in service now for 33 years. Typical wastewater treatment facility has a lifespan of about 20 years. So you guys have really gotten your money out of this process. You can stretch it to 30, which you guys have successfully done, but the likelihood of failure now is pretty high, and when these things failed, it's very expensive and very difficult to replace them emergently, and doing so also can result in some pretty severe water quality issues on the back end. So you guys are doing the right thing by kind of addressing that now. So looking at kind of where we've been in the late years, the latest discharge permit was issued in 2018. That 20-year evaluation that we did was in 2019. And then we prepared the pilot test and preliminary engineering study for this project in 2021. We've been working on final design this year and are looking to finish that up here in December. Looking to get this project going early in 24 with obviously the public's approval. So here's kind of a look at what the actual components as far as what we have here. So this is the Foundry Street pump station. 100% of the flow that your station receives, that your users generate, goes through this pump station and is pumped through a 1-mile force main from down near the river all the way up to the wastewater treatment facility. So this is a critical piece of infrastructure. The village has done a great job of keeping up with replacing the pumps themselves. Those are actually slated to be replaced here very shortly. Those are brand new units, but the equipment behind them, that energizes those pumps and helps them run, is shown in the lower middle and lower left pictures there. They have been in service now for over 30 years. It's not the recommended system anymore. It's kind of a bucket system that's becoming harder and harder to replace. So at the Foundry Street pump station, what we're going to do is we're going to replace all the existing electrical components with state-of-the-art new equipment that'll improve your reliability and keep you operating there for this very important piece of infrastructure for your plant. Once it gets pumped up through that fancy pump station, it comes into these facultative lagoons. These are, again, they're 15-acre ponds. They're 4 feet deep. There's 2 15-acre ponds. So water enters the first lagoon, spends 15 days over there, or 15 to 30 days over there, 30 most of the time, goes over into the second lagoon, spends another 30 days over there, and comes out. Over the years, when they were originally built, there was a baffle curtain that helped slow flow through the second lagoon. That has completely failed. We're going to be replacing that as part of this project. And during the 1989 upgrade, after they were originally installed in 1972, the lagoons were bolstered with the addition of these aerators throughout lagoon number 1, which improves the treatment ability of the lagoon. And so we're going to improve the electrics that have been running those motors. Basically, all of those different aerators are being run out of very old panels at this point that are requiring a lot more maintenance. So we're going to be giving you guys new panels and making it so that Dylan and Jason don't have to go out there and try to pull wires in the middle of winter to make things work emergently. Flow exits the 2 facultative lagoons and enters what are known as solids contact clarifiers. These are pretty cool units. Basically what they do is they create a reaction cone where we can add a chemical to help precipitate phosphorus, basically turning phosphorus from a liquid form into a solid form, and allows the phosphorus to settle down. Right now, in order to meet the current limits that are there, the operators are adding a lot of chemical in order to make that happen. It's a pretty inefficient process because you're relying on converting what's currently the liquid into a solid, and then you're relying on gravity to kind of let that solid fall down. And if you have higher flows where the gravitational settling is not as efficient, you're not going to be able to meet that limit that you guys currently have at your actual design flow. So what we're doing to these solids contact clarifiers, since they've been in operation since 1989, is replacing all the internal components. They'll continue to operate as they currently are, but we're going to bolster them with a process after them to help remove the solid phosphorus more efficiently than by gravitational settling. This is the old microscreen structure. This was installed in 1989 and has not been used in recent years. You see on the right that paddle-looking thing. That was actually covered in a screening material and was intended to basically help remove a bunch of the algae that you see on the top there from the treatment stream. This structure has not been used in quite some time, but we're going to repurpose it as part of this project. So we're going to remove all of the internals that you see there and convert that lower basin into a new treatment area where we're going to build a new pump station to pump up to our new tertiary treatment, to our new phosphorus removal treatment after the solids contact clarifiers. And we're also going to put a new chemical storage tank in this area. So you have old equipment right now that's not being used. We didn't want to dig a new big hole on your site if we didn't have to, so we were going to reuse the existing structure that you have to most efficiently put in the equipment that we need. Solids handling. So we were talking about the flow coming through the wastewater treatment facility, and basically it goes through those two solids contact clarifiers. Regularly, solids, or the sludge that's accumulated at the bottom of those tanks, is pumped out of them, and they're put into these two sludge holding tanks, which a picture of is on your left-hand side there. There's an aeration system that mixes the solids up and keeps them in suspension. Those mixers, and mixers is the wrong word, those diffusers have been in service now since 1989 and require replacement, so we're going to be replacing those as part of this project. The middle picture shows a blower, which is what provides the air to that system. That has also been in service since 1989, so we're replacing the two blowers as part of this project. And the two pumps that actually pump solids from the clarifiers into these tanks have been in service now for, you guessed it, 30 years, so we're going to replace those as well. So that's the first part of your solids handling training. On the next slide, sludge is pumped out of the two solids handling tanks to this green unit here known as a centrifuge. This is what actually does the heavy lifting of producing a drier product. Your solids enter there at about 1% solid, so it's 1% solid and 99% water. Goes through this really fancy, almost closed dryer-like machine where the sludge is pushed up against the side, there's a spinning bowl, and it dewaters, or basically pushes the water out, same as you bring water out of clothes in like a rinse cycle of a washing machine. And the solids coming out of there is about 25%. So you go from 1% up to 25%, which is much cheaper to dispose. It gives you guys options. And then following this at your plant, you guys actually line stabilize and create a Class A biosolid, which you then are able to field apply about every other year. So this unit that you see in front of you is the centrifuge. This was a late addition into the project. Following the PER, this actually failed. Dylan and Jason have been doing what they can to keep the plant operational without having this very important piece of equipment that again goes from 1% to 25%. So this is now in the project and will be replaced as part of the project. We're going to be replacing this with a new centrifuge. Following that, and I don't have photos of it because we're not working on it, just to give everybody a complete picture of what happens at the wastewater treatment facility. Water exits the solids contact clarifiers, goes through a UV channel where it is disinfected. The UV light basically inactivates the bacteria that's there or any pathogens so they can't reproduce, and then it is discharged into the river down there, and that is kind of the complete process. That's another 1 mile long force main from your plant down to where the pump station is. So this slide basically just talks about the proposed project in general. It's a lot of old parts that we're replacing, and that's what this slide is really showing off, is the older components that we're replacing as part of this. One thing not mentioned as right up until now is that the control building that Dylan and Jason both operate out of has also been in continuous operation since the upgrade in 1989. And that space is kind of tired and doesn't provide the ideal working environment for these two operators. So we're making some improvements there to their HVAC system and giving them new flooring and fixing leaky windows and things like that will make for a more comfortable work environment. So on the next slide, I'm going to talk about the thing I've been alluding to, this new technology that we're implementing as part of this project. So when we originally identified that phosphorus removal needed to be improved, we put out an RFQ, or a request for proposals from different firms to pilot a new treatment technology at the wastewater treatment facility. We had four respondents and 4 different pilot technologies that were all piloted for, I think it was a month-long span in 2019. And the one that did the best in the pilot, or the one that everybody felt the most comfortable moving forward with, was the Blue Pro filter. And this is a sand filter that has a reactive sand, and if you look at the picture all the way to the right, flow enters in the top of the unit, comes in through that pipe, runs down to the center, and then comes up from the bottom up and runs out. So it goes through all that sand media that's there. It's an upflow filter. And why that works better than what's currently there is because, as we mentioned, right now we're relying on gravity to gravitationally settle out the phosphorus. Now we're putting something physical and hard in its way. So we're physically removing the precipitated phosphorus now, which is a much more efficient and reliable way of removing the phosphorus into the future. As part of the project and as part of what we've been working with you guys, we did do pilots of different technologies. This was the most advantageous for your facility. And yeah, that's what is going to be installed on site. If you go to the next picture, the site is going to have a building which will contain 4 of these filter units. They'll all basically be arranged next to each other so that the operators have enough room to access everything, but not so big that it's a waste of space. That's what's shown on the right. On the left-hand side on there is basically the converted microscreening structure that we have. There will be new pumps to pump up to these filter units, and the chemical storage tank for that chemical that precipitates the phosphorus and converts it from a liquid form into a solid form. So project timeline, as discussed, we've been kind of going at this since 2019, starting way back when we evaluated the facility for aged equipment. We've completed a number of steps since then, including the phosphorus elimination and reduction plan. We did conduct a pilot study. As part of the pilot study, we did the preliminary engineering report. In 2023, we started final design. We're on schedule to finish final design this year. You guys will be conducting a bond vote next week to see if the project will have sufficient funding to move into construction. If we do, then in 2024, we will move into construction. And are projected, if everything kind of works out well with timing of equipment and how the way we think it's going to shake out, we should be done with construction near the end of 2024 is the current projected timeline. That we've seen some delayed getting equipment in, but as long as we get kind of undergoing, everything will move. So project cost, this is what most people care the most about, is what is this actually going to cost? Our construction estimate right now is $5.86 million. We carry a 15% construction contingency for $879,000. Engineering costs are projected at $489,190. That includes costs that you've already spent for your phase 1 and phase 2 services that we've already done, and projected phase 3 services, which would be helping you guys through construction to make sure that the town has somebody watching construction happen. That would be construction phase services, I apologize, which is $639,000, $791. And then other costs, which include random administration, legal costs, permitting fees, all those things, for a total project cost that's right around $8 million is our recommended project cost and bond vote amount. You have had multiple individuals with the village that have been working very hard to secure additional funding for this, and we've been working with you to go through the Clean Water State Revolving Fund program to help alleviate the cost on the sewer users. So this breaks down what those costs are and what those different subsidies and grants are. Of the $8 million total bond amount, it's estimated right now that you will have $199,600 of planning subsidy. You have $100,000 of green project reserve through the SRF program. Your community is considered an economically disadvantaged community, which qualifies you for $750,000 in construction control grant. You have a pollution control grant, which was right over $1 million. The village applied for and successfully received an ACCD grant for another $1 million bond, which all lowers your $8 million total project cost to $4.9 million that requires actual bonding or a loan. Of that $4.9 million, if you go through the SRF program, which is what we're recommending, you would have a 20-year loan with a 2% interest rate for an annual loan payment of $300,500. This would result in an estimated $18 monthly increase in your residents' sewer bills. It's important to note that this project is being proposed to be paid for by your sewer users. If you have a person in the village that is not a sewer user right now, this would not increase their costs. It's just on the sewer users. So this is where I'd like to open it up to questions and see where I've lost people by going into an unnecessary tangent. Yes?
Quick question. From the May to December construction period, will water usage be interrupted?
No, so it's gonna be a requirement of the contract that the wastewater treatment facility remain 100% operational for the entire duration of construction. Wastewater treatment facilities by design have redundancy built in. So, for example, there's not really anything that we're gonna be disrupting that would be impacting your treatment or your discharge to the river at the time. Your discharge permit will be in full effect for the complete effect of the contract. There will be no change in water quality coming out of the plant.
I have not toured other sewer treatment plants, but I was told that ours is sort of unique. Is that true?
I would say that is true. You have a facultative lagoon design. Typically in the state, a lagoon facility has a depth of about 10 to 20 feet. Your lagoon is only 4 feet deep, and what that was originally designed to do is to really utilize the algae in the lagoon to kind of help mix and aerate the lagoon depth. And you can't make them too deep because the algae need the sun to survive. So basically, the original design philosophy around your lagoon is very unique in the only 4 foot depth, which is kind of what makes, and that's why they're so big. If you go to different wastewater treatment facilities, even if they're lagoons, you would not typically see 30 acres of property taken up for treatment. It's beneficial in some ways because you have these very long hydraulic residence times. It'll help us during construction because there's ways that we can use that long detention time to help us out and not have to pump things as much. But it's a great treatment process. It has a very proven track record. It's definitely not lesser than anything else. It's just it's a very efficient lagoon process that you currently have.
So would I be wrong in saying that basically we're doing a maintenance thing, and but the new improvement piece is the phosphorus removable
Yes,
situation?
that is a fair summary of what we're doing. Yes, the 2 lagoons are not designed for remove phosphorus, so everything that comes after the 2 big lagoons is necessary to get that phosphorus removal because the lagoon process doesn't really touch the phosphorus that comes into the plant.
And you think we'll use less chemicals?
You should use much less chemicals than you're currently using. Then the reason for that again is because right now your chemical usage is needed to not only precipitate the phosphorus or convert it from a liquid into a solid form, but you need additional chemical to also help it gravitationally settle. So by removing that necessary gravitational settling element and just going through a filter media, you don't need as much chemical because now you're going through a media, you're not relying on gravity to
So
slowly.
there is some savings down the road here.
For sure, your operation and maintenance costs will go down. There are some increased costs that go along with those because we will have to pump up to the filters. But overall, you're improving a number of things at the wastewater treatment facility. I don't anticipate large electrical changes one or the other. They will have some more flexibility in how they operate things, which depending on how things go, there may be some cost savings there in electrical usage down the line.
Thank you.
And just, to continue on, I guess with the history lesson with 2019 and the state changing the rules and regs, I remember at one meeting, 2 ladies were here from the state and, we were doing about 1,600 pounds, I wanna say a year, of phosphorus. And they based that on one pound per person per year is what, a human being generates. So if we had 3,500 people using our facility, we'd be generating 3,500, but yet we're only generating 1,600. So there was a little consternation, on my part, as to why we're going from 1,600 and they want us down to 600.
It was a pretty big drop specifically
It was.
in your region. And yeah, so effectively, there's 2 different elements that kind of went in. There was a monthly concentration limit that was put on every plant, and then there was also a yearly waste load allocation. And the waste load allocation requires a far lower monthly concentration than the monthly concentration that was set. So what's helped a lot of facilities, including yours, is that the flows have not been at the design rate for the facility. So you're able to get under that annual pounds at a higher percentage of at higher concentration than what is technically there for your permit. However, this is not an ideal way of operating. If you ever were to have any sort of flow increase to anything near
Right.
what your plan is designed for, it's not a sustainable methodology whatsoever.
Agreed.
And so that's one of the main drivers, is that the amount of
Yeah.
alum that you guys have to use, it would be a very high chemical usage that would be required to continue compliance.
No,
It is worth noting though that the operators have complied with all permitted limits to date, just by using more chemical.
No, I appreciate it, and, you know, this is necessary, this needs to be done. I would not like to see what happens. I would not,
Failing wastewater plants are never fun,
no,
as we unfortunately have
No.
seen recently.
no, I just, yeah, sorry, I just don't wanna see what happens if it doesn't happen.
I hear you. I have one question, something that I never thought of before. Obviously, we're gonna isolate the phosphorus, and how are we going to dispose of it?
Yep, so phosphorus that is removed by this process there's two answers to that. So phosphorus that's removed and put into the sludge goes as part of your current solids handling train and
Okay.
is land applied as a part of a Class A biosolid.
Okay,
The other part that's kind of hung up on the filters there, that is part of the filter media that kind of gets caught into the filter, those are regularly washed. Some of it is returned back to the front of the lagoon, and it's kind of just a merry-go-round. And the other part, that filter media has a fixed lifespan of about 20 years, so in about 20 years, you're gonna have to take that sand out and put new sand into those filters. So there's two kind of disposal streams. One is getting rid of the sand, that'll go to a landfill, and then the other one is going onto your Class A biosolid fields.
got it.
Silly question, but I guess how do the farmers get rid of the phosphorus?
That's a great question. That's a charged question.
It
The phosphorus is a great nutrient for farmers. It's necessary for part of plant growth. There's a variety of practices that go into responsibly applying phosphorus to fields, but it is something that is very delicately managed. There is another whole part of the phosphorus into the lake component that does come from agricultural runoff. Our focus on this project is really on the point
Right.
source discharge from the plant, but that's a whole other
Yep.
thing, getting phosphorus out of fields. Yep.
As you said, a very charged question. Thank you.
Anybody out there have any questions? I know there's not too many out there, but, and we don't have anybody on Zoom at all.
Might mention the open houses.
We
People
did
might wanna
conduct
come
a
to.
series of 5 open houses. Bill, you probably speak very well on those, yep.
Yeah, so to clarify also, the total cost of the roughly $18 per month per user will kick in 2026 at the earliest. It's the bond, once construction is complete in the first year of the bond, you pay interest only. This is a nice aggressive track that it actually might be 2027 before everybody's hit with $18 extra per month. We did a series of 5 open houses. I don't know if it's just a lack of excitement over the project or an understanding that we need to do it based on critical need, but we had 2 voters show up over 5 meetings. So thank you, Mr. Broderick and Mr. Cheney, for making it 4 total to include the informational meetings. But again, I don't know what to be, I'm ambivalent. I think it just is a sign that we have to do what we have to do.
Yeah. And voter turnout at informational meetings has historically been really low here. So hopefully, we're thinking everybody's satisfied with our proposal, and it will pass, but we'll see on the 7th.
Yeah, the scuttlebutt I've had, which has been not a lot, but it's been positive, so I think that's a good sign.
Agreed.
So we encourage everybody to come out and vote on November 7th. And the way you vote will tell us how we're gonna proceed with this. So if there's nothing else to be brought up on this subject, I'll adjourn the public meeting for the wastewater treatment bond vote and call our regular meeting to order. And if you gentlemen want to hang in there for another couple of hours, feel free, but if you don't, so. Or do you have anything else you wanna say?
Nope, available for any questions that come up, just let us know, but thank you for the opportunity to speak to you and the public.
Thank you, appreciate it as always.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I know that's the answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
And,
Thanks, guys.
Chief
Good
Sullivan,
evening, safe travels.
you wanna come up and take your rightful place? Heidi, you wanna come up also, please?
Okay, like I said, we're entering into our regular meeting. First item on our regular meeting agenda is agenda review. Do we want to change anything on our agenda this evening? Other than cut it in half? No, I guess we're all set with our agenda. Public comment? Sean, you want to say anything? No? Not yet?
Not yet. We'll see how it goes.
Next item on the agenda is approve and accept our minutes from the Monday, October 2nd, 2023 meeting as presented. What's your pleasure on our minutes from the last meeting?
I'll move we approve the minutes as presented.
I second the motion.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve and accept our minutes from October 2nd. Any discussion, corrections?
Good minutes.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Item number 3, approve and accept the village warrants through Thursday, October 26th, 2023. What's your pleasure on the warrants?
I would make that motion that we accept the warrants as presented.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve and accept the warrants through October 26th. Any discussion?
Just one question.
All right, good.
On warrant 101, number 87678, Norcan hydraulic turbine.
That is the Unit 3 guide bearing, I believe.
Guide bearing, you said?
Yeah, what was the dollar amount on that?
48,716.
Yeah, that would have been the guide bearing.
You know what I mean, the big bearing
Yep.
on our generator.
Adam, what number warrant was that?
87678,
101.
101.
101, sorry.
Do you need follow-up? Because Unit 3 is still offline, waiting some final tweaks, but that is the guide bearing. So
Yes.
they just
Yep.
gotta
Nope, I'm all good.
finalize controls, and we're about a week out from it being back online.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, that being said, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the motion is carried to accept the warrants unanimously. Next item on the agenda, review and acknowledge the third quarter SQRP report, which we have dedicated to Chris Leach. And he says that's another unnecessary update, but we're gonna do it, right, Chris?
Yep. I would make the motion that we have reviewed the report and find it satisfactory and move on. You know my issues with it, I mean, it's,
If that's a motion, I'll second it.
yeah, that's a motion.
Okay, and basically this report is a self-grading level as to
Self-evaluation.
the evaluation of our services in the electric department, so. So the motion has been made and seconded that we have reviewed and acknowledged the third quarter report. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried unanimously. Next item, Heidi Birch Valenta, grant specialist, request for signed resolution for the municipal planning grant for public works infrastructure investment planning project.
Wow, that's a lot, that's a mouthful. Well, yes, that is correct. So I gave you a little packet of information, and it includes a summary of all of the grants that are going on. But the resolution pertains to a municipal planning grant, which is an annual opportunity for municipalities to capture some money specific for a municipal planning project. And this year, we have chosen to look at the Public Works Department infrastructure needs. So Dean came to me with a list of water lines, wastewater lines that are similar to your wastewater plant. They are outdated, dysfunctional. Some are undersized. So the purpose of the planning grant would be to give you an overall document that would describe each of the projects, prioritize them, and provide estimates so that you can use that project, that document for planning and for grant applications in the future. So it's a step forward in allowing them to budget and responsibly plan for those upgrades. So the total amount of the grant is $13,950, and the village would have to put up a $1,550 match for that. And the trustees would have to sign the resolution. I'm sorry, I forgot to leave that with
You need a motion?
the trustees. Yes,
Yeah.
please.
I make a motion that we approve the request. And I'll second.
Or,
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded that the trustees sign the municipal municipal planning grant resolution that Heidi has presented.
I got a question.
More discussion on that? That's
Yeah,
good.
do we currently have a map of our piping in
Yes.
the village?
Yes.
So this would enhance that with telling us where our deficiencies are?
Yes, and it would also put you in a position to have fewer breaks. Some of your lines are vulnerable, and what I'm hearing is that there are frequent water breaks, particularly in the winter. I know there was one since I've been here that they had to manage. And it would also give the system the ability to be a little more useful for future developments. If you're in a position now where you have to decline extending a line for a housing or business development because that line isn't sufficient to sustain further service off from it, upgrading that will put you in a position where you are able to support the housing and business development requests and gain more customers.
No, I think it's a great idea.
Any more questions?
No, sir.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay. We can sign the resolution. The motion passed, carried. So, I know Bill wants me to ask this, but in this, the grant list that you got us on the second page, the brownfields over at 6 South River Street, do we have any more reports from KAS as to their timeline, or are we at their mercy?
Well, it's my understanding that they're currently working on further groundwater testing. That was a data gap in the work that happened previously. And
Have they done their final borings yet, or no?
I believe that is in the works. I can't say with certainty if that has actually happened.
Okay,
I don't believe this happened yet.
I'll let it lie now, okay.
But this is a good opportunity, if it's okay with Mr. President and the trustees, to kind of
Yes.
have Heidi, since she's here, to highlight some of the other things we have going on, and then to answer any questions, because we don't get her at these trustee meetings very often.
That's a good idea,
Okay.
yeah. So,
I'm here. Well, I could tell you about the transportation alternatives grant application that we're working on. You're all aware the village did a brand study that highlighted a lot of safety issues for vehicles and for pedestrians. And then subsequently applied for a $300,000 grant to do some work. That grant is in hand and that project is underway. VHB is the consultant, and there should be a first meeting for that piece sometime in December or January. And that's focusing on Merchants Row and Canada Street, fixing some crosswalks. The next application would be to go a little further and look at the issues on Church Street behind the park. And it came to the forefront through discussions with Public Works Department about stormwater issues on that street. There isn't a good system to capture stormwater, and there's a grand slope on the street, and parking remains an issue. So we decided to look at a whole comprehensive fix there to install some stormwater treatment, and also to plan to turn the street into a one-way and look at adding bike lanes and parking on one side. So the Public Works Department had a strong preference that there was only parking on one side. But with the modifications, we should be able to pick up a significant amount of parking spaces coming with that. So that would be the focus of this grant that is open, and it is due December 8th. And prior to submitting the grant, there has to be evidence of a public meeting explaining the project and allowing the public to come in. So if you will allow me, I'd like to come back on November 27th with VHB and describe that project in detail and get a formal motion from you.
wasn't that proposal something to do with the backside of the park in with the streetscape focus? Yeah.
Yes.
That was part of their one of their proposals anyways.
Yeah, so we're capturing another portion of the recommendations they made and seeking the funding. And the pool of money is larger this year. It's gone up to $600,000. VHB is still in the process of creating the budget, so I'm not certain that we would need that full amount. But we will have a full presentation for you on November 27th. And at that time, the trustees would have to also understand their commitment, financial commitment. If we went for the full $600,000, it would be a $150,000 commitment. But this is not a quick grant. This is, it would happen over 3 to 5 years. So the village would have time to plan that match incrementally as we dig into the project.
So as a reminder, VHB will be here on November 27th. We're here for a joint meeting. They'll talk about Exit 21. They'll have a public forum for that. This project, this scope, and I think it will include the entire $600,000, will include full parking, 74 Merchants Row, where we purchased earlier this year, And all the way down the back of the park on Church Street, we would anticipate picking up between 35 and 40 parking spots while taking care of all streetscaping needs, sidewalk needs, stormwater needs.
Great, could use that. So,
It's not gonna happen quickly.
No.
True, 3 to 5 years.
okay.
Okay? And the last one I wanted to just bring to your attention is that the village has an opportunity, that is another annual grant for $175,000 to be used on a Class 2 road, and that can be utilized for paving or other projects. Dean has selected Lake Street near the railroad, so from South River to a little past Middle Road, I think it is, and also to repave Linda Avenue. So the village would have a $35,000 match, which could come out of
Lake does.
the paving budget for that year.
Okay.
And that is for next construction season, or?
It's possible it could be for next construction season, but we're submitting in
Probably not.
December, and by the time they make an award and get us a contract, we may still have a construction season.
I would count on this for 2025.
Okay.
Puts it right up front. Be honest, huh?
There's a shot, but there's not much of a shot for 2024.
Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, so I think 2025 is a safe bet.
Okay.
I
And the
want to
last
thank you
one?
though for this open list that
The
you're,
airport.
I refer to mine once or twice a month.
Oh, great, I'm glad to hear that. And this is a summary, some of these grants were in process when I arrived. And some of them are new.
Yeah, they are.
The first 2 pages are open grants, the others are ones we are working on, either in application or in pre-application stage, which is building the foundation, so gathering support, getting letters of support, performing outreach, and setting the stage so that when the application deadline arrives, we're in a position to move on.
Okay, and the last thing on the sheet, airport sewer water infrastructure extension, this project is anticipated to go to bid in November?
That is what we're hearing, yes.
Oh.
They have come to
Oh, I
a
missed
point
that.
where they've gotten the easements from the state, and Aldridge and Elliott are the ones that had said that it should be going out in November.
Oh, good. Okay. Any questions for Heidi?
I just
No,
like
this
that
is-
number,
This is
$4.7 million.
easy to follow, this is cool.
Where's that one?
Sean?
Yeah, stepping back a couple topics, to the water sewer upgrades that you were discussing before, and grants and that. Something that town may wanna be, or village, I should say in this case, wanna be aware of is that there's gonna be some changes on the state level for zoning, especially to do with places that have city or village water sewer, municipal water sewer available. We're in a huge housing crunch right now. It's really rural America, which we are, to increase the amount of housing that's available. It's a huge shortage. So because of that, the state's gonna be changing some things, and this isn't gonna be a town thing anymore when it comes to the zoning. You're gonna be allowed to do a duplex on any property out there that's permitted for single-family residence. So historically, a lot of these homes around small villages in Vermont, they were in rough shape maybe, but they weren't rough enough to tear down. And the fact that because financially it didn't work for people, and when they now are gonna start making that a scenario where any home that's permitted for single family is now permitted for a duplex. Or if you have municipal water and sewer, they're looking at if you have a certain amount of acreage, it's not gonna be a ton, they're obviously figuring the final numbers on it, but a certain amount of acreage, you're gonna be permitted for a 4-unit building on that, which will change the game on a lot of these properties that have sold for maybe 100, 110, 120. They just weren't affordable to tear down, to rebuild a duplex on or a single family home, so people are choosing to rehab those. Whereas if you could get 4 units on that with municipal water sewer, especially if the system can handle it, you're now gonna be able to financially tear a home down that you may have paid 70, 80, 100, 120,000 for. And now, instead of rehabbing an old rough house that is still potentially in many cases just gonna be an old rough house with some lipstick on it to be resold, it may in fact be torn down and a 4-unit building may go on it, triplex, whatever seems to fit there at the time, which will add more dense development, which is what they want. They want to kind of decrease the urban sprawl, which is what our problem is right now. We're sprawling into the countryside more and more. They want to try and keep it as confined as possible, and places with municipal water sewer are going to have some abilities that they didn't have in the past. Again, it's still at the state level, but they're seeing a lot of momentum for it, for some of that to step over. So it will step on top of local zoning guidelines that are there. So just to kind of reiterate that we're at the right time to try and increase that water sewer capability for the town. And I can't say enough about how great the village highway department has been for me when I've needed them for any water sewer things, either whether it's turn it on. We've had some, just even recent weeks, we had some problems with some sewer lines, and Dean and his folks were right on it. And I know that, you guys field all the complaints normally, but they've done nothing but been great for me through the years whenever I needed them. So I just want to say thanks to them for that.
Appreciate that.
Yep, thank you, Sean. And we're trying to keep that reputation up with the improvements to the treatment plant and the water lines that Heidi was talking about. And if we don't
My house can be.
keep at it, it's gonna slide in a negative way, so. So we're hoping everybody will be on the same train as we are.
I'm
So,
still gonna complain about my bills, don't worry. But at the same time, it's glad to have the instruction.
Why couldn't you just let it go? Let it go just tonight.
Right?
Point of clarification, that we formerly were under the assumption that for capacity for wastewater, we were at around 60%. We're not, we're at 50%.
oh,
That's so,
good, okay.
50% capacity as it stands right now, verified mathematically by the experts, Jeff Lewis in particular.
Wastewater.
Wastewater.
Okay. I misunderstood.
Water, there's a lot more room, because we theoretically could,
There can be.
yeah, we could add on, and we're not even close under our current setup.
It's, the numbers are like 400,000 and 700,000, something like that.
The real numbers, well,
Yeah.
nameplate on wastewater is 900,000, and
900.
we're operating at 50% of that. And water is, I think, about generally 300,000, 330 maybe on most days.
Yeah, I thought they told me at the open house it was 700. No, that's okay, thanks for the clarification.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Plenty of room,
Plenty of room? Yeah, it's a good thing.
and that's the idea.
okay, so thank you, Heidi. Come
Thanks,
again
Heidi.
sometime with enough to report.
Will
Well,
do.
we'll see you in November.
November 27th.
Yep, good, so. Next item on our agenda is Swanton Village PD update with Chief Matt Sullivan.
We've got 2 separate packets, so take one of each and pass it down. Okay, so you're getting 2 separate packets coming down the line there. One for the village in September and one for all of the activity by the police department, village and town and outskirts for the month of September. Looking at this at the village first, we handled 137 incidents. Out of those 137 incidents, the top 10 call types were 21 traffic stops, 19 suspicious calls, 15 community outreach, 12 directed patrol, 7 citizen dispute, 7 motor vehicle complaints, 5 alarms, 5 crashes with property damage, 5 search warrants, and 4 welfare checks. Out of those 21 traffic stops, there were 6 tickets issued and 16 warnings with 1 arrest. And for the arrests in total, we had 6 arrest charges representing 6 individuals arrested. Moving on to the village and the town and the outskirts, we handled 263 incidents. Out of those 263 incidents, your top 10 incident types were 46 traffic stops, 30 directed patrols, 29 suspicious circumstances, 24 community outreach, 14 motor vehicle complaints, 12 agency assists, it looks like 11 citizen disputes, and 9 search warrants, 7 welfare checks, and 7 juvenile problems. Out of those 46 traffic stops, there were 19 tickets issued, 34 warnings, and 2 arrests. And looking at the arrests in total, there were 14 arrest charges representing 13 unique individuals. In addition to that, I just took a look at where we were at over the course of the year. We have 135 arrests total this year to date compared to last year. In total for the year 2022, we had 113 arrests. And then I was curious to see where we're at as far as use of force goes. Last year, we had 2,352 total incidents and 33 uses of force, and that's in total with all of our officers. But those 33 uses of force were against 25 unique individuals, which represents approximately 1% of the incidents. And then looking at where we're at this year, we've responded to 2,295 total incidents with 15 uses of force year to date, which is only roughly a little over 0.5% of those incidents. And if you break that down further, that was against 11 unique individuals, so which is under 0.5% of the total incidents. So that's a good trend. And then when you compare that to national data, on average, looking over many years, looking at police public contact surveys, the average is about 1.7% of all contacts results in either a threat of use of force or an actual use of force. And again, keep in mind when I use the term use of force, it's usually a very low-level use of force that we're talking about. And then looking at 2020 data, the most recent data on average in the US is 2% of all police contacts result in a threat of use of force or an actual use of force. So we're trending pretty well with very low numbers in those categories.
Does anything stand out this month from previous?
No, we're just continuing to be very busy. The work is never ending as far as addressing the drug problems. So the officers are still focusing on drugs and traffic enforcement. And they're doing a great job overall and doing some pretty in-depth investigations. You know, and the other issue associated with obviously the drug work is all the property crime associated with it. Usually the frauds and property crime have a nexus to drug enforcement work. And that's what we're finding consistently.
Tough one. Which I don't understand.
So
The good
is
work.
what?
Said keep up the good work.
Yeah. Do you see the drug crimes as staying steady or increasing? Or
They do. I think we've done a very good job at pushing it out. So there's a couple of locations, not within the village proper, but in the outskirts that we're aware of. But certainly compared to where we were at the beginning of 2022, we've done a fantastic job addressing the problem and displacing it to some degree.
Yeah.
So we are working, we're leveraging resources with federal partners and still aggressively addressing the problem and offering people services, because again, it's a two-pronged approach. I see it as offering people services and hopefully they make the choice to receive the services that they need to address the substance use disorder they suffer from. And I tell them straight up, we just did a search warrant last Thursday evening at a location here in the village that wasn't directly related to drugs, but it had a nexus to drugs. And we did actually recover some drugs in the warrant, but it was related to a property crime, a burglary, that was directly related to drug activity also. And in that case too, I told the individual straight up, we know what's going on, we know essentially the activity that's surrounding the locations you've been living at, and I would like to see you get the help you need, if that's the case, and if not, just understand that we're gonna continue to address this aggressively from an enforcement.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Any other questions of the chief?
No, sir.
Okay. Like Adam says,
Keep up the good
thanks for
work.
doing a good job.
Yeah, keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Keep up the good work.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Thank you, chief, appreciate it.
Okay, the next item on our agenda, review and approve the Missisquoi Waterline River Crossing Loan Amendment. Lynn?
Go to
So
water
this is
commissioners.
related to,
Maybe.
phase 3, which will be the construction of the water line across the Missisquoi. That'll be happening most likely next spring. I don't think they're gonna be able to do anything this fall
No.
directly or.
No, it's been ruled out. It's a 2024 project.
So anyway, so with that, we had originally done a loan agreement, or submitted for a loan on the old amount. Remember, we had to, with the prices coming in high. So this is just the updated loan application. It will be state revolving fund money. So we did get some subsidy for it. And basically just signing the application for the loan so we can get the approval process, because it takes a while. The drinking water SRF funding takes longer to go through the approval process than the clean water, which is your wastewater side. Two different departments, they work completely separate. So approval on this one takes a lot longer for whatever reason.
Nothing changes. We're still under the bond
Amount.
amount.
But it's a slight increase. Oh,
Yeah, from what we had originally applied for. So hopefully, we'll have the approval on that loan before we start construction, because that changes how much we have to get a line of credit for.
Yeah,
Because this is on a reimbursement basis, so we're gonna take out a line of credit before we start construction, so we can pay our contractor. And then I can only draw down on this SRF once a month at the most. So, and they're pretty good at turning that around, within a month, so we should get the flow coming. But if we don't have the approval of that, we're gonna have more hanging out on a line of credit. So,
but they've got 6 months.
so hopefully this gets approved before we start construction.
I make a motion that we approve the amendment as requested.
And I'll second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve the Waterline River Crossing Loan Amendment. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously, so we can sign the amendment, approve the amendment. Next item, Scott Godin request to connect to Swanton Village Water via Bobby Bump's private water line at 444 McQuam Shore Road. And we got another one after that, so I guess we better move to Water Commissioners meeting.
I'll make that motion that we move into water commissioners.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to go into Water Commissioners meeting to address the next 2 items on the agenda. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. So Scott Godin wants to connect to Mr. Bonk's water line?
So he come in a couple weeks ago, he dealt with Bobby, got permission, paid Bobby his fee, whatever. Got permission to connect to Bobby's line. He's aware of the $1,500 fee for the village and the water meter package.
Okay,
And before mentioned, we certainly have capacity, so.
Yeah, it's a seasonal, it's a one-bedroom, single-family, seasonal home. And he's aware of all the fees associated with that.
Seasonal?
Seasonal. It's Canada.
I heard the word.
Okay. So, need a motion to grant his request.
So move. Second.
Motion been made and seconded to grant Mr. Golden's request to connect to our water line. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried unanimously. And
The second one, remember a couple weeks ago, we approved Judy Paxman's 400 gallons per day for the duplex. Well, I heard back from her engineer that wasn't enough. So the calculation that they came up with was, they need 560 gallons per day for water and 420 gallons per day for sewer. So I just need to do an updated allocation approval for them, if you so move.
I don't see a problem.
No, it's just a calculation they did on.
Why the bump up in water? She got a business there?
Nope, it's a two-bedroom duplex, so a total of 4-bedroom.
Sounds like,
Normally, we're doing 400 gallons per day for a single-family dwelling,
yeah.
and that's kind of what we came in at, but according to their calculations, 560 per day for water, 420 per day for sewer.
doesn't say who the engineer is.
That came from, Robert Walker from Barnard and Gervais.
That would be a maximum amount. And it probably would use less.
Right. And that's why we kind of do that 400 is way more than what
Yeah, I understand.
most single-family homes would use, but it's a good number to go with.
I keep,
So I was a little short on this one.
I keep my eye on that one. For my own purposes.
Okay,
So just need a
so,
motion for that.
you did a motion for
To
that,
approve the updated
to approve the
allocation.
request. Okay, we need a motion to to improve the request, for 44 North River Street, the
I would make the
allocation.
motion to upgrade the water disposal amount at 44 North River.
I'll second it.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to update the water and wastewater allocation for 44 North River Street. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, that motion's carried unanimously. Now, I'll entertain a motion to come out of Water Commissioners meeting into our regular meeting.
So moved.
And seconded.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're back in our regular meeting. And next item is our village manager update. Mr. Sheets?
Gentlemen, I'm gonna be brief tonight.
You are?
Maybe an hour?
Aye. That's good.
It's hurtful.
I didn't say that
I'm not
this
gonna
time.
take it personally, but, no, it is gonna be brief. That'll make me laugh.
Whatever you need.
So the first one is Heidi set up at her request and 100% her idea for me to go in front of the Franklin County Industrial Development Corporation Board of Directors. And we had a pretty simple ask. So we want to make sure that we're fully prepared as we get ready to start to advocate for next door, public safety. And we've explored a lot of different areas. We're about 2 weeks away, we think, from having a fairly definitive cost, so we can start having that conversation.
Oh,
But we asked for $3,500 to have Jeff Carr, the noted economist who often works for the governor's office, take a look and do not a comprehensive review, but a $3,500 review, which is a 2 to 4 to 5 page white paper on what the economic development would be if we were to build a public safety facility to the scope that we talked about next door. So that we can answer those questions in terms of, we talked about job creation, but we talked about really the exploration of what exactly that means for a community. Because I think it's really hard to nail down what the economic impact is of public safety in and of itself. And you'll always hear me say, and I don't think you'll see the chief disagree, we can do all of the other things we need to do to have a vibrant community. You can do none of it without a vibrant public safety approach. So, it's another way to take a look at it. Let's stay on the topic of Heidi. Heidi is working with the former person who did the RFP for the Depot Street Bridge. We've talked about this at length. We know we only have $200,000 to do the expansion joints on the bridge in next year. And we think the bid is gonna be clearly much more than that. So we'll talk as we budget build about setting aside up to $300,000 in general funds to meet that need. We hope it's not that much, but we need to do the RFP to start to get some bids and kind of determine where we stand. We've worked with, when I say we, I mean Heidi has worked with the state of Vermont and the town in terms of making sure everybody's in agreement that it's okay to block the bridge for a finite amount of time if it's cost effective. So closing the bridge for 4 to 5 days, I'm making that amount up, but whatever it is, if that is less impact on traffic and fiscal impact, then we're gonna pursue that. So more to follow, but we hope to have that RFP out very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon. Okay.
Put the parking meters in my house.
Your traffic, unfortunately, Mr. President, is going to be not good for several days. That is a fact.
That'll be a vacation time.
Yes, good time to do it. Actually, that's one of the biggest things is identifying the perfect time to shut down that bridge for 4 to 5 days. I don't know that there's a great time. MVU field trips, you know, we're making a continued concerted effort to work closely with MVU. We saw what it did with this last little scholarship that we had for the summer. We're gonna host 4 additional field trips here in the month of November. 2 classes will come here, 2 will go to hydro. No takers on going to wastewater. I don't understand, but no takers for that. Speaking of social media, we talked about this. I think we were remiss because we do not effectively educate the citizens on all of the really good things that we do on a regular basis. We're trying to highlight just 1 or 2 of the things a week and post them on Facebook and or our website. So great feedback and media from the Scott Mueller internship. Again, it doesn't get any better than that for a high school graduating senior to sit in front of a panel of 5 people, including the principal and many others, get selected. Just knocked it out of the park here. So everybody wants to do it again, so hopefully we'll be on board for that again next year. And the social media outreach was great. And then we've seen additional work by Public Works, Electric Department, and every time we post something, again, we're educating folks as to all the great things that we do, because I still believe that if you ask the majority of the people, they have no idea that we have 38 full-time professionals in all of the areas that we work in, and we have to continue to educate them on a regular basis. Public Works, so the newest member of the team is a gentleman, Matt DePady. So Matt DePady, who you might have heard the name because he is from Highgate, and he is right next door, probably right now. He's a member of the fire department. He starts November 6th for Public Works. So again, pretty good number of applications. We chose to interview just 4 of those applicants, and I would say that any of those 4 could have done the job. So it's a pretty good position to be in terms of the job pool for, at least for us, seems to be pretty good on a regular basis. A couple of upcoming important dates. Reminders, I think you're all aware of this, but it's for the public as well. November 13th, joint board meeting, 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Diane, 6 p.m. I just say it because, you know, it's different. We're gonna have a public forum with the town to talk about the future of policing in the town and village of Swanton, prior to any discussion about, in public forums, about next door and the bond in March. And then you know about November 27th, that's the joint forum with the select board and us related to VHB coming in and having a discussion on exit 21. And that's more for the public to come in and ask any follow-up questions. So, part of the process for them.
Yes, I saw that.
So speaking of
Is that
probably,
at 6 p.m.?
yes, 6 PM. 6 PM, good.
That's 27 also, 6 PM?
And then the
Is that a
last
regular-
thing that I have,
regular
if we
meeting?
can pass one down, please. We need to lock in sooner rather than later, the first of 10 informational meetings related to the public works, public safety bond, I should say, the bond for the new building next door and the renovations here. And the expectation is not for the trustees to have to be at every one. It's really not for REARC and Weeman Lampier to be at every one. There might be one or two that they miss. Clearly, we would love everybody to be at the kickoff, if that works. Kickoff's proposed to be Thursday, December 7th, 6 PM. Diane, 6 PM. Here, we could do, if that does not work, we could do an alternative date of Monday, the 4th. And then you see that we want to have 10 of these. And I'll be at every one, and then I consider this not even close to being enough. When we're done with this, I think we should consider it having 100 days of open houses, and we're going to encourage people to come in at any time and look at why we're asking for this bond vote. So while we're not ready to talk numbers today, it's way cart before the horse. We have to lock the dates in now because there's a number of people that have to put these on their calendars. So I wanted to check with all of you to see if this schedule seems like it makes sense to all of you.
It does?
Sure.
It does, but just a comment, perhaps we should have something in January also, closer to the vote time.
We will. This is just the first 10.
Okay.
I told my wife I would see her in April, at the end of April.
You
90
read my
more?
mind.
You say we got 10 here, you want 100?
100 informal open houses, that's how many days there are till the bond vote, and people can come in at any time. Right, I think there's gonna be a lot of questions, there's gonna be a lot of tours, there's gonna be a lot of opportunity to have a discussion, and we've talked about this, same for both bond votes. We will absolutely respect the will of the voters, but we wanna make sure they have all the information that they need to make an informed decision.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Very good.
That's all I have.
It's all right to me, Bill.
Okay.
So, and it's relatively close together, so you've established a flow, I guess you say.
Something like that.
Then we'll
I'll say.
put a hiccup for the holidays and then go back at it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other necessary business? You'd like to say something, or?
No, sir. This is
No?
your first
Okay.
meeting.
Sean? Okay, if not, we'll go into executive, I see we have an executive session to discuss customer accounts, personnel, and real estate. Have a request for that, right? So, okay, I'll entertain that motion if there's nothing else to be. Anybody else want to make any comments? Or we executed that to the limit here.
I'll move, we'll go
Okay.
into executive session, discuss customer accounts, personnel, and real estate.
8:20.
Okay, the motion
I'll
has
second.
been made and seconded
Yep.
to go into executive session. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, we're in unison, we're in executive session.